Well, you think that all young people like a quick round of stimulus? Think again. No, I'm not talking about that kind of stimulus. This is a family show. I'm talking the Washington kind, the quick rebate and cash in hot hands kind, the $150 billion stimulus plan out of Washington this week kind. Peter Sheahan is the author of the forthcoming book, Flip. He's here with me now. This guy has probably the best, really, I think, hands on the pulse of young folks that I know of. But what do you think? Do you think young people are jazzed by this fiscal stimulus talk or a hot check in their hands?
If you have a look at the blogs and the discussion boards, most of them using the word Band-Aid to describe the stimulus package. I'm not going to say they don't want the check, but a lot of them are talking about, if you look at it in the online community, but also face-to-face, and I've had a chat to a few over the last couple of days, they're a little bit concerned that it's not going to fix any underlying problems and it's just a bit of politicking.
But do they react as a lot of average folks react when I talk to Peter? Well, $800, $600, whatever it ends up being in my hands, okay.
Yeah, no one's going to send the check back, I'm sure. Who wouldn't take the money?
Right.
But whether their view is that it's the solution to a recession that no one seems to know right now whether we're in or we're not, that's a whole other question. And it seems to be the feel on the street, the word on the street, is that it's not necessarily the whole answer.
I remember I was at a symposium, for lack of a better word, you were conducting. It was a tour de force, I might say, Peter. And one of the things I remember that stuck with me, you said that younger people today, they're not cynical or even more jaded, but they certainly question more. So in this political environment right now in this country, are they equally questioning or cynical of both parties?
I'd say they're healthily sceptical rather than cynical. Sort of suggests that you're not even going to look at the issues and you're just going to downright have a bad view of them. I think young people, not just here in America but around the world, are looking for authenticity in government officials, regardless of which side of the fence they're on. And if they thought, you know, the government genuinely wanted to do something about the recession, I think they're looking for more than just a stimulus package that, you know, in their words, is band-aiding the problem. I think what they might be looking more for is if there's some structural issues at play here, why aren't we addressing those? And as per youth of all generations, education is the one that was coming up for them. Just this is purely from online today, looking at discussion boards. You know, the comment was, don't spend it on this, spend the money somewhere else. Maybe it could do better, more good.
Now, I know they're not a homogeneous group, but is it fair to say that their interests are different or distinctly different from older folks? I mean, the notion is that you give someone a check, even subliminally, they'll be kind of loyal to you. Are young people the same way?
You only have to ask big brands in corporate America whether the young consumer is loyal. And if you can think of the voter as a consumer, I'd say the answer to that is no. I think they'll take the $800 and then make the decision on a whole host of other issues.
But isn't that the reason why advertisers covet the younger demo? Because they will at least try out their products, whereas older folks, I guess the rap is, do not.
Well, they're early adopters, so they're more likely to get on board fast. They're also considered a fairly influential consumer group as well, and that is if you can get your message right. I mean, think about it from a political perspective, which is where we're coming at this. If you can get your message right to a fairly sceptical audience, then you've got a good chance it's going to resonate with an older audience as well.
All right, if the numbers are right, Peter, in this country, Barack Obama is off the charts scoring with young people, males and females. And if that translates into higher percentages, it will be stupefying percentages, you know, as many as 60 to 70% of them voting. I can't imagine that, but if it happens, well, great. What do you make of that?
I think he presents a fresh face. I think he comes across as pretty authentic in his views and his beliefs, and I'm not sure whether they like him for his policies yet or whether they like him just because they like him and the way he presents. I think
Which is more important in politics?
Well, I would say the latter rather than the former.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, based on the questioning. So right now he's doing just fine. The question is whether he will be able to be strong enough in his messaging all the way through to not just nomination, but say he got the nomination through to election time. You know, who knows? These races change pretty quick. And you only have to look at Obama's record to say how quickly a nomination race and then, of course, a presidential race can change.
All right, and politics is often decided just on organizations and that sort of thing that have nothing to do with likability. You got to go to organization. You could be Satan, I guess, and win it all. But in the ultimate battle, do young people respond more favorably to how appealing the person is, how likable the person is? You know those questions you always ask, who would you rather have a beer with, than an older person, or what?
The truth is, it's not just a young person question, that's a question for voters of all ages. And consciously, voters say they care about the policies. Unconsciously, their behaviour says something altogether different. So the truth is, no kind of research will get, any kind of survey-based questioning will get a straight answer to that question. In other words, I would say they'll pretend it's the policies, just like a lot of voters do, but it might have to do with organisations they represent, or just they like the person.
Now, Republicans traditionally feel like they give up on young voters because either they're looked upon as fuddy-duddies or money fuddy-duddies, and the Democrats generally succeed at getting, regardless of the year, more young people. Is that just a gimme?
No, it's not true, actually. We've done research looking at a vertical subsection of what you would call Generation Y. And for the viewers who aren't quite sure exactly who that means, you're talking roughly those born between about 1978 and 1994. There's obviously varying definitions, but we're talking collectively that group. And this is a group called Generation Y Neos. Anyway, there's 17.5 million of them in the US. They are far more likely to vote in the upcoming election than the rest of their generation, and only by a smidgen, but they just pip at the post the Democrats. The majority of them are in fact Republicans just.
Really?
So a Republican Party, and I've seen the numbers, a Republican Party thinking, and I don't know whether this is true or not, this is coming from your question, turning their back on that group could be a very dangerous move, because research is telling us that there is a very influential group of this generation who are quite pro-Republican and more than likely to vote for them.
And they like rich people. Like young people like rich because they want to be rich themselves, right?
Sounds like a good plan to me.
All right, Peter Sheahan, thank you very, very much. I think both parties were listening close to what you were saying. All right, now, what is driving the improved market? Stimulus or earnings? Carly Fiorina knows. Carly Fiorina is next.